Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of whatever this show is going to be called. Um, I'm the host, Nathaniel Davis, and I'm currently thinking about rebranding this wonderful thing. It's been a year. It's a good time for a rebrand. There's a few things that weigh into it, just some feedback I've heard and all that. So, if you have any comments about what you think the podcast could be named, let me know. Generally, I want to focus on I want to keep the message of the podcast the same. I want to keep a general goal-based kind of theme to each episode, but at the same time, it's just self-betterment, just cool discussions with interesting people and all that. Kind of a variety show similar to Joe Rogan, but I obviously don't want to copy what he does, but he has the number one podcast on the market, so it's kind of hard not to copy some of those things. Either way, this episode is brought to you by my sponsor, no one. There is no sponsors, so if you know anyone who is interested in sponsoring the show or just having some advertising to, this smaller audience and helping grow their brand, I suppose, let me know. Also, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, do all that fun stuff, because the fancy YouTube algorithm doesn't like small content. So, and to help grow that, grow the channel, please share this episode on social media, all that fun stuff, and make sure to tell your friends. Tell your friends they can be on the show. It'd be cool if you were interested in being on a podcast, and boom, there you go, opportunity. Then one day when this show goes big, you can say you were on it at the very beginning. That'd be sweet. Anyways, ironically, I've told you to share it on social media, and today's episode is going to be, for the most part, on social media, dopamine addiction, more the negative side of social media. And we're obviously going to touch on the positive side, because there are lots of positives to social media. It's just, there's a fine line with a lot of people where social media is good and where social media is bad. And most people don't know, when they need to stop or take a break. And that leads into the majority of people saying that their social media experience is bad. But those who know when they can take a break, or those who I suppose tolerate more of the things on social media, the people who do that are able to tough it out a bit longer, or at least not complain as much about social media, I suppose. So, a couple months ago, I put out a Google form for some people to respond to, and I got about 50 responses, which, it wasn't as many as I hoped, given I put it out on some of the larger websites such as Reddit and all that. I was hoping to get a lot more, a larger pool of responses, but 50 is, I would say, a good sample for, the scale I'm doing things. I decided I wanted to do this because I found that the majority of my interactions with social media were useless, or just not, well, I suppose not productive would be the same thing, but it just wasn't a very good impact on my life. It wasn't adding value. So I did look into this a little bit more, and not many studies have been linked to it, but there are aspects of social media that help to contribute to your dopamine, which is, the happy brain chemicals. And those happy brain chemicals, essentially how it was explained to me is the refresh. When you scroll down on whatever social media you're on to refresh it, it is like spinning a slot machine, and that slot machine releases the dopamine chemicals and makes you happy because you see new content, whether it's content you wanted to or not. You see something new, and by doing that enough, you're programming your brain to associate that refresh with happiness. whether the content that comes up with the refresh is happy to you or not. So that that resonated very much with me, because I know if I'm on a day or in a day where I don't have as many notifications, and I'm just kind of sitting there mindlessly scrolling, and I get done scrolling for a little bit and go back to the top of Instagram or Facebook, and Instagram, it'll refresh you to a certain point to where it says you're all caught up and they stop showing you new things. But with Facebook, if you refresh it, that main feed, it refreshes everything. Good luck finding something you just saw that you liked, because it's gone forever now. Like, good luck, legitimately. And that's one part about Facebook, that people can just get caught up in it and sit there and scroll, and then they get tired of that scroll, so they go back to the top and refresh, and there you go. You're just stuck in this loop, and it's not very good, like, at all. And here's the thing: the people who are very much caught up in this, I feel that they don't want to be caught up in it, legitimately, because no one wants to just sit there and look and scroll through social media and see the cool things that other people are doing. And that's another portion about this thing. This whole idea is that people are only posting the things that they want others to see. They're essentially trying to build clout. They're trying to flex on other people through social media. And, it's cool to share your interesting experiences with people. It's very, I don't want to say, like, negative too, but at a certain point, if you're not doing cool things in your own life to post, or things that you think are cool enough to post and compete with the other people in your life, then you're going to feel bad because those things that you're doing aren't, living up to what other people are. So you get kind of this FOMO, fear of missing out, sort of a aspect to everything, and overall, it's just not a good time. So doing this little Google form, I got a lot of interesting data, and I just wanted to see generally what people thought of social media. So I asked the respondents their age, and majority was between 13 and 21 years old. But the data did range up to, with some outliers, up to, 43. So there were a few outliers towards the higher end of the spectrum there, but the majority of the data did lie between that 21 and 13 age range. So after that, I asked their gender. 49% female, 49% male, and 2% prefer not to say. 98% of people responded that they do use social media. Those who responded to that question stated or showed that 53% were on Facebook, and this is total of respondents on social media. 53% on Facebook, 90% of users or respondents use Instagram, 47% are on Twitter, 71% use Snapchat, and 42% use TikTok. They were asked how much time they spend on their phone in general. Choices were less than an hour, 1 to 2 hours, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and then 6 plus. Surprisingly, this data was fairly evenly spread. There was one respondent in less than an hour, but overall, the main range that respondents use their phones in was 4 to 5 hours, with roughly 16 to 18% of respondents in all other categories except for that less than 1 hour. Then, out of those respondents, how much time is spent on social media? There were 2 votes for none. So 2 people responded saying they didn't use any time on social media. 12% of people responded that they were less than an hour. 17%, or excuse me, 35% responded they use social media for 1 to 2 hours a day. 18% responded 2 to 3 hours. 14% responded 3 to 4 hours, excuse me. And then 4 to 5 hours was 10.2%. And then there were 3 votes, or 6% of people who responded they use social media 5+ hours a day, which is insane to me. I don't know how people are able to tolerate that much of just, I don't want to call it slop, but some of the content is not fantastic. Like, let's be honest here. Looking at the spread of types of social media people are on. So, for this age range that we have, that 21 to 13, it's not surprising to me that Instagram and Snapchat are the highest too. But 53% of those people still use Facebook, which makes sense because of, at least for the timing amounts of where they're, sitting there and able to refresh and get that instant gratification kind of thing. And I mean, that goes for all the social media apps. But what did surprise me, though, was only 43% of respondents said they use TikTok. For the age range that I was primarily getting data from, that was very surprising to me. But it would be interesting to go further with these 2 questions and ask them to give times or length of time to the social media app that they're on. So get them to break down, I spend X amount of time on Facebook, X amount of time on Instagram, and so on and so forth. I think that would be really interesting to add on to this experiment or survey, I suppose. I did ask what they use social media for, and these are all total percentages. Communication with friends and entertainment are tied at 83%. 36% of people, they're on social media and get news info. 55% said they get info related to their personal interest. 1% said, or 2% said that they get info about all of these things and use social media for that. And then 1 person said they use social media for nothing. So yeah, that's kind of interesting too, because I feel like a lot of people do use social media for news. They're just not necessarily willing to admit it. I know a lot of people, at least in this age range, I feel like if they're older, they get a lot of their news on social media, and the younger group, so that 13 to probably 16 range, I feel like they aren't necessarily interested in keeping up with current events. And I'm sure you can say that about all age ranges, but specifically in this survey, I feel that out of all the age ranges I have, theirs is the least likely to just in general care about the overall news. Info related to personal interest, I was surprised that that was lower, because I feel a lot of people are on social media just for like friends or personal interests. I don't know. That kind of surprises me. But entertainment and communication with friends both being tied for the highest slot, that's not surprising at all. Social media is great because you're able to, talk to other people just instantaneously, or as soon as they respond, at least. And entertainment, there's lots of good content out there. It's a wonderful outlet for lots of people. Um, whether that is delving more into their personal interest and meeting, or not meeting, but looking more into their favorite celebrities branding on their social media or like that, just getting a better feel for who these famous people are that they follow and have interest in. I mean, it's definitely a great outlet for people too who are more on the creative side and want a place to put out their work. They feel like they have something to contribute, and most of them genuinely do. Most of them are very well intentioned people who, you know, it's one of those things where it's hard to start the brand or start the initiative, but once it gets going and these people have an outlet, like they're able to reach people with the message they want to, and it works out very well for them in the end. And I'm saying this, of course, that's more so from a creative standpoint of making a separate account to do this, but with I feel like people get caught up on their personal accounts, where they're seeing like the different things and like the For You page and all that stuff that gets kind of fed to them, just like slop and all this stuff. I don't know. There's definitely good to having that communication and entertainment aspect right at your fingertips all the time. So I followed up those questions with just general info, like what is the interest in hobbies, just to kind of get an idea of like what my respondents were interested in. We had gaming, photography, running, art, music, fashion, makeup, that sort of things. Sports as a whole. Let's see, what else? TV shows, science and animal information, keeping up with YouTubers, their different clubs, politics, more crafty things. Someone said specifically dogs. You know, spending time with family and friends. So, they're using social media probably more for that communication aspect there. Um, Golfing, fishing, outdoors kind of things. Home improvement, cars. One person says cosplay, woodworking, coffee. So there's a huge range of different things that people are very much interested in. There's, Star Wars, so paying attention, or not paying attention, but keeping up with their favorite TV shows and movies and all that fun stuff again. Philosophy, so being able to explore their more philosophical, probably some spiritual stuff in there too. Yep, there's one for religion. One person says Obama. Thank you for that. That's all. That was definitely fun to see when I was looking through this. If you're watching this, and that was you, please reach out to me, because I just want more info on that. I assume that you're trolling and all that, but if you're being legitimately serious about your devotion to Obama in your hobbies and interests, I'm interested. Please reach out and explain that a bit more, because I feel like that would be a good conversation for this show. Okay, we'll move on from that. So either way, you can see that there's a huge range of just different things that these respondents were interested in. So we're not pulling, the same info from the same, 14-year-old kid named Joe from, Florida. We're not really doing that sort of thing. to where it's just going to be the same responses. There were a huge variety of different hobbies, interests, and things that people wanted to just be interested in and see the cool side of, or at least they find it to a degree interesting to where they're most likely on social media to see that different thing come up constantly and keep updated on it at least. So in this next portion of the survey, I asked people the more serious questions about whether their time on social media has been good. So on this question, I asked, has social media had more of a positive or negative impact on your mood? And most people said positive at 65%, but the other 35% said it has been negative. And so at 35%, that's significant, at least, in my opinion, because you think, how many users would, Facebook have each month? And you take 35% of those people, and that 35% of people are saying that they're unhappy because, they're using social media. And you can do that with literally all the other social media apps. It's insane. So then I furthered that question and asked, when presented with negative effects on social media, did you continue to use social media? So I was more or less responding to, say they got bullied or, they had an argument that legitimately made them mad in the comments. It wasn't just some typical, tiff with someone in the comments, something that you'd probably laugh about afterwards. Were you legitimately angry afterwards from using social media, or just something along those lines? It didn't have to be related to a argument, but just negative effects. So that could even be your mood if you're a young woman and you're scrolling through the For You page and it's just a bunch of TikTok kind of stuff, people showing off their bodies or makeup kind of stuff, and you feel bad because you're not fitting that narrative afterwards. Just any negative effects. But to restate that question, when you were presented with negative effects related to and on social media, did you continue to use social media? And 40% of those 40 respondents, or 81% of people, said that yes, they continued to use social media. There were only 18.4 respondents who said no, I cut it off, I stopped, I took a break. And I don't know, that doesn't seem like the most healthiest decision. I know when social media has gotten to be a bit overwhelming for me, I have to delete it, and that could last a while. I know there have been times, whether it be because of working in certain situations or just I'm spending way too much time on social media. I get caught up, and I'm just I'll just get home from school or doing whatever else, and I'll just sit there and scroll, and I'm unproductive because of it. I don't do the things I need to. There's just a lot of things, a lot of negatives that are attached with that sort of thing, and it's not a good feeling to look back on your evening, or you sit down at 7 o'clock, and the hot thing is TikTok right now. If you sit down at 7 and you just sit there and you're watching TikToks and looking for some good ones, and you roll over, you swipe down to see the notifications on your phone, and oh hey, it's 12:30, it's 1 o'clock. You've just wasted 6 hours of your day spent on social media just scrolling for no reason. Sure, it might have been entertaining at some points, but it wasn't entertaining for that entire 6 hours. I don't know. But it's very unhealthy, in my opinion, that only 20% of people walked away after they were presented with some sort of negative outcome. And it shows people's dependence on social media as a whole. It really, and I'm going to get into this afterwards, after I go through this survey, but it just messes with people's dopamine receptors and just their idea of what makes them happy in a larger sense. Because it's just an app. It's something that someone made in a computer, so you can play it or use it on your personal computer that you carry around with you all the time. And I say computer, but I'm talking about cell phones. Cell phones are just essentially fancy computers to do whatever. Then even scarier, in my opinion, the next question was, in your opinion, is social media essential to your happiness? And thankfully 85.7% of people said no, but 15% of people said yes. Social media at this point in their life is essential to their happiness. So, like I just said, this thing that people made on computers so that you can put it on your personal phone to carry around with you all the time, this thing that's on your phone and tied to your phone and all this, that thing is going to be essential to whether that person is happy during that day or not. And sure, there are other things that can make you happy in different times. If you go to the mall or the amusement park, or you go to Starbucks and get your foo-foo latte frappe, what's it? You go out and you do something fun. And sure, that'll make you happy, but these people are saying that essentially replace the amusement park, the Starbucks, the good food, all that stuff with social media, and they would be just as happy with social media. And I don't know, that's not a great thing. It's just not good. The whole dopamine situation, it's really going to mess with people long term, I think. And I don't think we're going to see this effect for a good while, at least. I think COVID has definitely oh no, I'm dating my video, but with this last year, the coronavirus has definitely I don't know, it's forced a lot of teens to just sit around, and their only outlets have been digital for the most part. And this whole social media thing, that's all people would take in this age range that was mainly the respondents. Social media was their only major contact with the outside world that they were taking in constantly. So a lot of these usage times were probably significantly bumped. If I was to do this survey, 6 to 9 months earlier, it's one of those things where it's probably getting better somewhat for the people in this age group, but because they spent so much time on social media daily at the beginning of the pandemic, that it's been hard to kind of throttle that back and get the same dopamine and pleasure to your brain that it was at the beginning of everything. Because when you're taking in 10 to 16 hours of this online digital content just as quickly as you want and at your fingertips, it's going to eventually just wear you down mentally, because you're not going to be able to find that the same reaction, and it's not going to make you as happy long term, I suppose. And social media is not supposed to make you happy long term, but either way. My next question I asked was, would you ever voluntarily give up social media? And despite a lot of people saying that they spend so much time on it each day, 71% of people stated that they would voluntarily give up social media. So there is some hope here, but there is 29% of people who said no, they would not, and I think that's fair because, like I said, at the beginning of the pandemic, and even when there wasn't a pandemic, sometimes social media is a person's main outlet and connection. They could be in a certain home situation or have just not an ideal living situation where social media lets them kind of escape that and get out into an internet community. I mainly think of Reddit in this situation with the subreddits where, if you want to talk about, camping or you want to go to a certain community, you want to talk to other like-minded runners or goal-oriented people or just different things like that. There's lots of communities where you can join them and people are going to accept you because you're all in that community for a similar reason. You're all there to, you're all there to talk about, makeup or, how to make the best outfit, there's plenty of things like that. There's groups like, I'm sure there are subreddits just for joining certain discords to play games with people. There's so many different communities online that are going to help people get together. So I feel like as long as the respondents are using social media in a way that's benefiting them, that's giving them more benefit than like dopamine type of reactions, I feel that about the 30% of people who would not give it up is justified just in the fact that it could be because of certain community and like inclusion sort of aspects, I guess. So then I went on to ask, if you did give up social media, how long would you give it up for? And surprisingly, the largest amount of respondents, there was 34.7% of people said they would give it up for 2 or more months. They would give it up for 2 months or longer. 18% of people responded they would give it up for a month. 6% of people said 2 to 3 weeks. 26% of people said they would give it up for a week. 8.2% of people responded 4 days, or 1 to 3 days, excuse me. And then 6.1% of people also responded they would not give it up. And I think this shows kind of the polarization and opinion of social media. And if I wanted to break this down, I could break it down into, I could go in and look and see, did more males or females say that they would give it up for a longer time? I could do that, but, just for the sake of this video, I'm not going to look that far into it just right now. I could have set that up prior, but, oh well, my bad. Either way, I think it's interesting because here we have, we'll just call it less than a month and a month or more. We have, the 52% of people, a bit over half of the respondents said they would give up social media for a month or more. Whereas, you have 26.5% of people said they would give up social media for a week. And then there's a few more below that, and there's a couple responses above that also. But the main groups were a month and more at 52%, and just 1 week at 26%, and everyone else kind of filled in the spots above and below a week. And I think that's interesting because I think it shows that a lot of people are kind of over social media. They're not interested in it in a long-term sense. they're willing to cut it out of their lives to at least try it and see what works, what doesn't work, and what's causing them, not necessarily causing them issues, but they're at least acknowledging that social media isn't the greatest overall, and they're willing to take a month or more long break from it. But then there's also some people who are saying that, that they acknowledge social media probably isn't the best, and they're willing to stop it for about a week. But after that week, they'll need to go back to it, and I at least give them the kudos and all that for at least saying that they would be interested in going out on that, I guess, journey of leaving social media behind for a week. Whether they have or not before, I don't know. But there are some people who are at least open to the idea. I think a week is significant enough. I could say that group of people is open to it and above. Anything less than a week, I don't know. I don't think they're the benefits of leaving social media behind. I feel it's just more so, I would try it, but it's not going to be this significant thing, right? So then, and that was my last question for this, and I put one last box at the end for other comments, questions, concerns, just kind of general responses. I had 4 comments here that one person was adding that I mostly use Discord. Yeah, I did not put Discord as a social media app just because of, I suppose, its main use for gaming and all that. Which I suppose gaming to a degree could be. There's an argument there to say that gaming and like that Discord area of things could be social media, but I did not put Discord just for the fact that its primary use is gaming. There's plenty of people who use Discord outside of gaming. I know I use Discord and I'm not using it to be in like games and all that stuff. I have a Switch, so I don't really have as many multiplayer kind of Call of Duty different things like that I need to use Discord for. So I just kind of overlooked that. A few other comments that may not add a whole lot. One person said hi. So if you're that person, hello. I hope you're having a good day. Someone said no, they don't have any comments, concerns. Our friend who was interested in and had the hobby of Obama, they're so dedicated to Obama. Their comment, question, and concern was Obama. So I do thank that person for their insight there. I hope you're doing well, and legitimately, please come on the show. Let's talk about things. Just the commitment. I love it. One person states, I gave up Facebook a few months ago. I'm not missing it at all. So congrats on that. I think that's just one example. There are plenty of other examples that people are giving up and very much enjoying it. A lot of people, I think, here, leave social media and they think they're going to drop off the face of the earth and not be social anymore. That's just not the case. It does take a little getting used to and figuring out, like, hey, I have to go out of my way a bit more to talk to people. But you think about how things were way back when, before cell phones and all that. If you wanted to talk to someone, even with the home phone, you had to call a house, and you didn't know if the person you were calling was going to answer or not. You just had to answer, and it's like you were talking to their mom or their grandma, or, their cousin's dog sister, and it's like, yeah, can I talk to whoever? And you had to sit there and wait and hope that they were even home at the time. Um, so it's just a very different dynamic, I guess, with cell phones, because you know you're calling a specific person. Um, let's see what else. One person said they use Reddit the most, and I'm not necessarily sure that, or I'm not necessarily sure why I did not include Reddit in my survey, so I do apologize for that, but oh well. Um, they said the only reason that they have Snapchat is because of the other people their age having Snapchat, so they're using that to communicate. But otherwise, they do not have other social media. So I can understand that, just needing to stay in contact with other people. Um, One person says they appreciate how artists and gamers have a place in the online community because of their different skills and all that. And like I touched on earlier, social media is definitely a wonderful outlet for a lot of people to, put their skills and art and all that type of stuff out there. So social media is fantastic in that way. Um, um, Another person says social media is awful, and the only acceptable purpose it has is for people to communicate. Instagram depresses girls and hires beauty standards for the young girls, and that kills their self-esteem. Um, like I've just touched on, some people's outlet is their makeup and different artsy things in that category, and I understand what you mean. You're not referring to the makeup artists who are doing different things such as that, but I'm sure that they also contribute to that to a degree. Um, I'm not having those experiences necessarily with social media, so I can't speak on this perfectly, but I understand where the argument comes from with that, because there's, you know, stand like personal like standards with uh, personal standards with like beauty and all that. Those aren't even just, they're not the only standards that people have to deal with on social media. There's plenty of other things, and I'm not saying that to demean those or belittle that, but there's standards all over social media, and it's just not a fantastic place if you're looking to boost your self-esteem there. Um, so yeah, I get that. One person also states, I only use social media when I have nothing else to do and need to kill time. This occurs more often due to the pandemic. Yeah, I'm just, I think you can see that. I think the numbers in my survey here are still a little inflated because of the pandemic and all that. Which, oh well, I can't get around that. But I still think that these numbers are gonna, I don't think they're going to decrease as much as I think they will should I redo this survey later on, excuse me. Um, One person says social media is toxic, however very addictive. That would be why I'm doing this. So yeah, well, that's going to be my main point here in a minute. So, um, things such as unrealistic beauty standards make social media toxic for me, yet I always go back to it because other parts of it bring me joy. See, that's the thing. They have certain parts of the apps that, whether it just gets your dopamine, or like you're legitimately enjoying, like, memes and all that sort of thing, like that they know how to mix in the things that are going to make you enjoy their apps as well. Um, One person says that they think social media overall is beneficial and it is helpful because we're able to get information easier and communicate with people and all that fun stuff. Um, they say, as when it comes to the government and celebrities, it equalizes us because it makes us easier to find out information on issues such as racism, sexual assault, abuse of power, and all that stuff. Before I go on with this, I think that it doesn't necessarily equalize us with them, because and it gives us a chance to see the things that they do that aren't the greatest, but they have to be more careful with their social media because they're on such a large platform. Whereas, if Timmy from the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, says something on social media, and it comes across as kind of insert whatever phobia you wish. It comes off as something like that, and no one's gonna care because it's Timmy in the middle of nowhere. He might get some negative comments on his post, but that's not going to have any necessary repercussions um in his life. Which, he should be allowed to say whatever he wants, but freedom of speech is not freedom of repercussion. So either way, going on with their comment, there are definitely negatives too, and but that is with anything in life. There's always going to be positives and negatives. The negatives they cite are unrealistic beauty standards and people editing their lives, or more so curating their feed, I would phrase it as, to make, and it makes the rest of us feel like we aren't enough or aren't doing enough. Um, Now, my thing with that is people aren't doing that on purpose. I think they're not posting things with malice. They just want to show off. Um, which it's kind of selfish as is, but still. Um, Another big negative in their opinion is people were not made to. They think that people were not made to handle this amount of information, and I totally agree. Um, if you think back, no matter how you see how humans got here or whatever, um, there was a time where like things were pretty simple. It's like, oh, I have to get up and make bread today so I don't die, and I need to drink some water, and then I can like work in a field for 12 hours and do it again the next day. There's a time in life like things were a lot simpler, like monkey brain go burr. Um, so yeah, people are definitely not supposed to be able to handle this much information. They think it raised anxiety and depression levels um, because of that, and the amount of data causes people lots of stress. Um, they say there are lots more issues than just those, or excuse me, than just social media, and that is their opinion. But they do think overall social media can be positive, but I think everything with moderation is best. And yes, moderation is always fantastic. So that is essentially everything covered in my survey, which I know that took a lot longer to go through than I originally planned on, but still, there it is. I think there's a lot of good information in there to really look at. Um, but moving on, I discussed the dopamine thing a little longer or more in length earlier. Essentially, just going over the idea that when you hit the refresh, or you look through your feed for more new interesting things, it's like the slot machine for your dopamine receptors in your brain. And it's not amazing because that's going to trigger your dopamine, and it's going to tie you to your phone in the long term. Your phone is going to become more a part of your hand than just a part of your function as a human. Like, they improve our function to a degree because we're able to speak with people in different places and get information at our fingertips and all that. But it's going to become a more integral part of your function as a human rather than you being a human that functions with a smartphone. I don't know if that makes sense, but I know what it means. So there you go. Um Social media overall, I feel, is more negative than positive just because of the addictive nature. People get caught in the loops of just mindlessly scrolling and finding new things to look at and all that stuff. And I think it does, like our last comment there said, I think it does genuinely lead to some amount of depression at least. I know when I don't have this constant need to, when I take and delete social media just to take a break or like that, and I don't have this need to continuously look at my phone to look for text and all this fun stuff. Um, I know I feel a lot better. Not saying I'm depressed in my normal life, but there's a lot less stress to sitting there and thinking, oh wait, have I gotten any text? Do I need to respond to people? And, you can always, after your week or month or however long your break is, you always open up your phone and you're like, yeah, I have 12 messages and there you go. You have however many messages. It's just, you respond to them then and be like, hey, I wasn't on here, sorry. Oh well. And then I do think social media does lead to laziness because of the refresh function. Yep, we're tying this all together. The refresh function is going to give you new content to look at, and that new content, you're going to scroll through it the same amount of time that you scrolled through the last big string of content. And you're just, because it's giving you new content every time, you're going to get stuck in this loop, and it's not going to be good for you in the long run and short term even because of your different tasks that you may put off while wasting time on social media. And I just had a thought, and there it goes. Goodbye. Oh well. Um, so connecting our social media to happiness and all that. We had that one question about our uh, our happiness that I want to talk about just a bit more. Look at the social media is essential to your happiness group, and would you ever voluntarily give up social media? Like I mentioned before, we had 85% of people said no, social media was not essential to their happiness. And would you voluntarily give up social media? 71% said yes. So that 71% number is 35 votes, and the 85% is 42 votes. So, assuming that these 35 people who are on both, I'm going to assume voted that it's not essential, and yes, they would give it up. I'm going to assume that there are 35 people who voted that way on both of these questions. If those people did do this, I'm very curious whether that would have an effect on their happiness levels. And I don't have any fancy brain scan things to do this with. I'm not some big fancy scientist and all that, but it would be interesting to me to look at that example. There's a few other things that I wish I was able to do with this survey. I wish I had a larger sample. I've mentioned this earlier, but if I was able to do this and segment it by generation and get about 50 to 100 responses per generation to compare the results across the board there, I think that would be really beneficial because I think we're going to see a decrease with, your boomers who are mainly on Facebook. I don't think they're necessarily affected by Facebook nearly as much, just because they didn't grow up in this information age and all that. So now getting into the more my personal view, look, or insight, whatever you want to call it, into issues with this whole social media thing. My first issue is the algorithms included with the refreshing, because the algorithms each time I've already went through this, but you spin the refresh slot machine and it gives you the dopamine because you see new content, whether you like the content or not. You get dopamine from it. You scroll through that to look for more content you do like, and as you go through, you're liking different posts and all that. Well, when you like those posts, it's telling the algorithm send more of those. So when you go to the top and refresh it again, that new feed is more likely going to cater to what you want and what you want to see. And you're going to go through again and like similar posts to what you already liked, but you're going to like more posts because they've added some posts that they think you're probably going to like just as much. And you're going to continue doing this, and you're going to get in this loop that's just going to give you all the content that you do want to see, because they're trying to keep you on their app as long as they can. They get more sponsor money, they get more ad revenue, whatever you want to, however you see it, they're getting more money from you the longer you stay on your app. And it's not necessarily money from you, but they're getting more money from sponsors who will pay them money to market at you. Um, so, and the thing with this liking posts that you're interested in, and yes, it's good to like posts that you're interested in because it helps to make your social media experience more enjoyable overall. But you will end up getting stuck in this loop of just, especially when it comes to the political and news cycle, you're going to get stuck in this loop where you're only seeing things from your perspective and things you want to see that are going to enforce your opinion. And of course, no one wants to go on social media, especially nowadays, and see that the news is calling them this or that, or, different things like that. They want to feel good about themselves when they're on social media. But uh, if you're not taking in sources on both sides, you get a very one-sided perspective of everything, and that's not always a fantastic thing, it's just not fantastic, and it's going to divide people even more. It's just there's a very negative connotation right now with the news and Facebook. I think the biases and news on all sides is just never been more apparent. Um, they're trying to throttle that back, I feel, more recently, whether it's because of the presidential uh, election and all that. I think they're trying to throttle back some of the biases, at least when it comes to the presidency. But either way, the news has shifted in the last probably about 20 years to not be the greatest thing. News, if you look at it back from, even the time of just radio and all that. Radio, you turn on the radio and they'd tell you what you needed to hear of what was going on, and that was it. They didn't care. They just told you what was happening. Now with social media and all this stuff, anyone can be a part of the news. Anyone can say anything, it's just not a super great thing, because then if it was just a normal dude just commenting a story he saw or some info he saw, then it's going to make this fight in the comments, and and that's a fight in the comments on just some random guy's page. Now imagine how that looks when you put that on a national scale. Like it's crazy that social media has gotten this big, to the point where it's a large factor in you know whether it's dividing or uniting a nation when it comes to the political sphere. So, and because of that, I personally would say that social media has ruined quite a few relationships or people and all that, or not people, excuse me, like friendships, just how people interact with each other, simply because of the uh, the ability to accidentally repost something that someone on your page does not like, and people feel that they have to be very defensive nowadays of their positions. Whereas, if you hold a position, at least in my opinion, you say, yeah, I hold this position, and oh well, you can talk about it like normal people, or just, don't mess with it. Like, oh well, just leave people alone, I guess. I don't know. But it's just adding to that kind of discussion that social media it's connecting people, but also dividing them in a very negative way. I think it connects people for the most part positively. You're going to meet lots of people on pages that you follow and probably have similar interests in, and that's great, and you're going to connect with those people. But the people that you may have already known or just have had on social media for a while, it might be dividing you more than you want. And that's not even to mention just the personal, like, Snapchat drama or whatever that you find in just high schools or wherever in messages and all that stuff. That's not even to touch on that sort of thing. Um, but either way, going back to our dopamine discussion, I'm sorry if this sounds like terribly scatterbrained and all this. I really didn't line this up how I wanted. I didn't think this episode was going to go this long. But either way, we're learning, we're getting better, I guess. So back to our dopamine thing. I'm going to read through my notes here, just kind of as is, and hope that it comes across all right. So when people refresh their pages and are looking for messages, and should they continue to do this with no text or no positive feedback, it's going to do two different things. They're probably going to become addicted because they're constantly looking for that, the message. And, the message is totally independent whether they get it. It's another person who has to do that if they're not interested in sending a message first. So it's going to put value on the amount of text that they get on social media, and therefore decrease their value because they're not getting as many texts. Which then, when they do get a text, it's like that, that high that an addict is looking for in their day-to-day life. And it's going to cause them, in that addiction, it's going to cause them to become lazy because they're going to become more preoccupied with looking at their phone, looking for those texts, and they're just going to sit there and refresh, and it's not going to give them that dopamine from the refresh because nothing ever is going to pop up. It's at least when they're looking for messages, they'll still be able to get the dopamine when they look through their normal feed, but if they're looking for messages specifically, going on the addiction path here, other issues that are going to be plaguing teens for a while is the vaping and nicotine addiction. I wouldn't say most teens are addicted to alcohol, but they definitely act like they could be. And while a lot of people make the argument that weed is not physically addictive, I think that there's a lot of people who at least act like they're addicted to it, and they sure do use it a lot, like they are addicted, and you know, just overhearing conversations at a larger school, you hear lots of people saying that it calms them down and stuff, and they feel jittery otherwise. Well, why would they not use that if it's making them feel better? So, at least to me, it sounds like an addiction. Excuse me, don't come after me, big, big cannabis. Oh well. But either way, I think with all those things, there is a social aspect that's going to add pressure on teens to using these. And I think social media is the first entrance of that, at least, because it's getting to users a lot younger than the age they say they need you to be, 13 or whatever. 13 is probably, I know a lot of kids who are on social media who are not 13 yet, right? And or can think of a lot of examples of that in my own age group of kids who are on social media a lot before that. And that's going to be their first experience with something to the global and addictive caliber, because all of a sudden they have all this info and all these things at their fingertips that they can do that weren't there at the beginning with, and it's going to make them feel a certain way that they have not found in technology before, you know, and that's going to be the addictive part that is slowly going to become. I feel like it's apparent, and social media doesn't necessarily try to hide it because they know that people are going to still do it because there is that social aspect that is very very powerful because of like you talk to someone and it's like, oh, you don't do, or you're not on social media, and if you respond with no, there's like this step back, like, oh my, there's something wrong with you. But that's not really the case at all. And because of this dopamine addiction to social media, people have become more dependent on it as a form of validation. Looking at the likes, the views, and all that stuff, people really just kind of get caught in this trap of needing the validation that comes with it, and it's just overall negative to a degree. Sure, it's nice to see that people are liking your post, or someone you haven't talked to in a while saw your post, and that's nice and all, but getting caught up in the numbers, it's having people put value in an intangible part of their life. And there are intangible things that are worth putting value into in your life, but I would say a social media app that a big tech companies can say no, we're not hosting that app anymore. We're deleting all the accounts. Goodbye. Thank you for using Instagram or whatever. I think putting that much value in something that can be taken away just like that is dangerous, at least when it comes to social media. There's a lot more things that are intangible, and there's just a lot more stuff that's worth more, in my opinion. Over time, the phone has become more of a physical extension of the limb. You look at a lot of people, and they're going to have a phone in their hand most of the time. And it's really more uncommon to see people not with a phone than it is with a phone, which, is bad to a degree. If you need to get in contact with someone in any situation, that's all right. But, if they're just mindlessly scrolling and looking for things, then, oh well, the person's not probably being the most productive that they could be. And another fact that I found very interesting was that people talk about themselves 40% of the time they are speaking. 40% of the time you speak in your life, it's going to be about you. And because social media is an app all about you, I couldn't find any data on this, but it would at least be kind of assumed that, you're going to be talking about yourself quite a bit more on a social media channel that is yours and is allowed to be all about you. Um, that's just kind of how it is, folks, and it it's okay to like a lot of people said, you just have to be using social media in moderation. But if you're someone who's posting very often about yourself and just different things that you're doing and all that, you're going to start to question. And if the views go down, you're going to start to question, like, do people care? What kind of value am I really like putting out there in the world? And I don't know if people are ready to accept that they might not be putting out as much value as they want to be, or they're not as valuable as social media has led them to believe. And I'm not saying that that person is not valuable as a person. I'm saying that they were given a false sense of value because they assumed that social media was the only way that they could get value. Um, so overall, I think that social media has lots of good and bad, and the only way to really combat the need and the addiction that comes with social media is just to do a full social media detox. One source that I looked into, the guy was talking about how social media, TV, video games, they're all active. Um, they're doing like different things to your brain that's in a active sense. Um, and essentially, you have to really remove dopamine. Um, I don't know how to rephrase this. It's essentially dulling your dopamine receptors, excuse me. Um, and it's making you get to the point where dopamine doesn't do as much. It's building a tolerance essentially because if you're watching TV, it's lots of bright colors, it's lots of movement very quickly. Same with video games. And with video games, you're doing the inputs and you're getting that gratification that, I turned the stick right and the character went right. You're getting instant feedback. And it's giving your brain these positive feelings, right? So to cut down on that and kind of reset your dopamine receptors, you have to cut out these active things that you do, such as watching TV, browsing social media, playing the video games, and all that fun stuff. And as soon as you've done your detox and fixed all of that, you're going to go back and you just have to be able to do these things in moderation, genuinely. So different activities that were listed that you can do that really cut down on the social media, or not, excuse me, the dopamine reception is reading, because you're taking information in at a pace that your eyes will allow you to and your brain allows you. It's going slow enough to where you're able to process that. And it takes a while to start to enjoy reading again. But if you look at a lot of our grandparents and just the older people in your life, a lot of them enjoy reading a lot more because they didn't grow up with this whole social media thing. And, back when they were young, as children, they probably played outside a lot more than we did, even. And as they got older, just what do you do on an evening? You couldn't really watch TV if you didn't like the show, so you picked up a book or you went outside and walked around or did something like that. And another one of the things that was pointed out was just going outside, just taking a walk. It's a slow, leisurely activity and resetting your brain to enjoy. Essentially, it boils down to resetting your brain to enjoy slowed down activities that, aren't going to be giving you this huge overload of information. Like, I'd say at the end of the day, it really just boils down to what you want to do and whether you want to break away from social media or not. And you don't have to. I This is just something that I've noticed in my life has been more of a negative than positive to a degree. And I just wanted to put something out about that. Um, so that kind of wraps up this episode. Again, if you have any let me restart that. If you have any idea as to what we could rename this podcast, let me know. Like I said, I'm wanting to rebrand everything and kind of start over to a degree since this is a restart. And yeah, gonna try to keep the episodes coming out. We'll see what we can do. As always, have a good one. Enjoy your day. Go outside, do something cool. I don't care. Just, you know, it's nice out. Do something cool. Have a good one.